Mr. Blair, great to have you with us. Let's start with the impressive speech that you made just now, where you highlighted the significant growth potential of China's economy. Tell us, why did you want to bring that message to Summer Davos in China?
It's important that people from the outside of China understand just how strong the development's been in China, and in particular now the move towards China as a hub of innovation. And you know, I'm fascinated by the technology revolution, its implications for the world, and China is developing extraordinary technology here, and it's important that people from the outside understand that.
And also, you made that point. You said during your meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi that you don't believe in isolating China, which is a point that you've been advocating for many years. So why do you think it's important for the West to keep engaging with China? And in practical terms, how can the West strike a balance between engaging with China and addressing their strategic concerns?
China is a major power. My institute works in almost 50 countries across the world. China is probably the largest trading partner of virtually every one of those countries, other than their next door neighbor. And you know, China's got every right, by reason of its civilization, its technology, its economy, its people, to be a great power. So whatever differences there are, it's important we stay engaged and we try and understand China, try and see China through Chinese eyes and not just through Western eyes, because otherwise, you know, you will end up with more ignorance, misunderstanding, and potentially conflict when we really can't afford to have that happen.
And now let's talk about your institution, where you've continued to advocate for more pragmatic and practical solutions to global challenges. And in that spirit, given the current mix of economic ties and geopolitical tensions between China and the UK, how, from your perspective, should both sides separate their disagreement from opportunities, especially in those emerging areas like green economy, artificial intelligence, etc.?
Yeah, so there's lots of areas that the green economy is one. I mean, China is the largest producer of electric vehicles, I think the largest investor in renewable energy. The UK's got a big interest in renewable energy. The world's got an interest in tackling climate change. Then artificial intelligence. After America and China, you know, UK's got a claim to be the third. UK universities are amongst the best in the world. So there's lots that we can do together, and it's important, therefore, you know, whatever the differences are going to be, and there will be differences, that we keep that strong level of engagement. You know, I'm very happy when we have Chinese young people coming to the UK to study. I think that's good. I'd like to see more come the other way, because you know, these people-to-people contacts are every bit as important as government-to-government.
And now let's talk about China-EU ties, because this year marks the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between China and EU. So how do you view the current EU's approach of framing China as partner, competitor, and even systemic rivalry?
China and the European Union, I mean, they have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of trade between them. So you know, this really matters to people in Europe and in China. There are jobs dependent on it, there's living standards dependent on it. And you know, Europe's single market is the largest commercial market in the world, or you know, up there with the very biggest markets in the world. So you know, there's a lot we can do together, should do together. And even Britain being outside of the European Union formally, I mean, obviously we still have a great interest in what happens in Europe.
And looking ahead into the next 50 years, what do you think will be the core pillars of China-EU ties? Will it be like climate change, artificial intelligence collaboration? What do you think?
I hope we can get an understanding on what the framework for regulating artificial intelligence is. That includes, I would like to see America and China and Europe come together more on that. Secondly, in relation to climate change, the problem of the climate changing was created by the developed world. But now the emissions are obviously happening principally in the developing world, including China and that, India, Southeast Asia. So again, how do we manage to work together so that Europe and China are working along common lines in tackling climate change? And then you've got issues around global health, where you know, if we were prepared to cooperate more on health, on sharing health data, for example, you know, there's so many things we could do.
I know that you are strong advocate for globalization and multilateralism. Yet today we're seeing the US leaning more towards unilateralism or protectionist policy. What's your take on that? What kind of role do you think China and Europe should play?
And on globalization, look, we work in some of the poorest countries in the world, my institute, and particularly, for example, in Africa, whose population is going to double in the next 30 years. So you're going to have this huge question of how do these people get access to the good things in life that more and more people have in China and often we take for granted in the West. And the answer is by having more global engagement. So these countries in Africa, they're going to have to develop. They need the investment coming in. They need to sell their goods outside. They need to, for example, make sure they're not just digging their commodities out of the ground, but also processing them to add value. So this is, I think, globalization in the end, because it's technology as well.